Let's just wait for Alex to come back in the room and we'll get going. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight is the Monday, August 17th meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. Let's get underway. I'm going to do things a little bit out of order tonight. The first thing I want to discuss, or have the board discuss rather, is the pickleball padel guidelines that we'd like to resolve or adopt as soon. In the last day or two, the updated resolution that reflects our comments from the last meeting. I think all of those comments were incorporated. The only, unless someone has a different view, the only sections that I think, why don't we start with those sections that we were leading into before the meeting started, which is section E, number 4. Landscaping should provide dense layered year-round evergreen and deer-resistant screening, and then and should include the following, and it has a litany. Let's start there. Anybody have any comments on how we should approach this? Because I know there are some different views on this one.
Chairman, it is my view that the effort by the trustees of the village to delegate to the five of us presently on the planning board to run this in what I call you will do what I say at your peril method is a wrong approach. And I strongly feel that property owners should not be told what to do. They should put a plan to make changes before the village. If the building commissioner or some other authority decides that it needs reference to the planning board then will weigh in to give judgment. And the guidelines ought to be pretty general because every property is different. Pickleball and padel, which are the two leading applicants, are quite different sports. Padel is really, in effect, a glass-enclosed external squash court. Athletically, it's enclosed in glass generally, and it's external usually to the structure. Pickleball, most people know, is a smaller version of tennis. It's got some of the attributes of tennis because it has a thwack that can be heard by people not on the property, which gives offense. And if the property owners around it can't settle the difference, it'll fall on us to resolve. I don't think we should sit back and tell them what to do because each one will be different. It'll be different elevations. Some can be sunken, some are not. Some are on existing tennis courts. Some will be brand new, equivalent of tennis courts, but maybe smaller. Everyone is different. And I would take this, I've tried to edit it. This is not my business anymore, editing this stuff, but I would take a lot of provisions out that are suggestions as to for people, property owners, to how to behave. They got to work it out with their neighbors or anyone who objects and come before us for approval. I think we should consult experts on our own, not just have somebody's sound engineer. There are ranges in it. It could apply to people with bigger properties, littler properties. Everyone's different, and I don't want to specify the vegetation. I don't want to tell them what to do. Our chairman, you love vegetation. You're an expert on vegetation, but I don't want you in the gardening business. It's up to the property owner to do it. It's a bias of government that I think beholds the village to deal better with private property owners that make good judgments, hire their own experts, get their own sound engineers, lawyers, environmental consultants, arborists, and make the best judgment for them and for their neighbors. And if there are objections, we're stuck as the referees. So I would take a lot of the resolution, which shows great diligence and effort by Alex, and I would vastly reduce it if given my vote.
Okay.
Thank you. Long speech, but the serious case of less is more.
Any other comments on section E, paragraph 4?
Well, I would just point out, Mark and John, that all it says is it will provide some kind of foliage screening, and then it says may include the following as it's currently written, so it doesn't specify any particular thing has to be done. So I think it takes into account that different properties may be different. So I think it actually accommodates the concern that you're expressing, John. So I, for one, think it's written reasonably, and that's a point of view, but I will say from personal experience, it'd be nice to believe that neighbors could always be neighborly and have everything work out. My experience has not always been that way. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I'll just give one brief experience, and this was, I live up by the area where the Southampton Social Club is, and they for years have been having exceedingly loud noise, exceedingly loud music. In fact, they had it outdoors and whatnot, and many neighbors spoke to them at many times, and the noise even exceeded village guidelines, and police were called and issued violations and citations. This went on for years and years and years. And you know what finally got them to behave? The neighbors went to the liquor authority and threatened to pull their liquor license. And that was when they finally came to the table and negotiated something with us. We were able to get a reasonable accommodation, which had acoustic screening of the very type that we're talking about here, had foliage screening, so it would look okay. So I do think that there is some point to the guidelines. The guidelines make it clear they can be amended or waived or modified by the board. So I think it gives the board the flexibility to take that into account. But I think to have some baseline so that when people come before us, they have some idea what we're looking for and what they might need to do, subject to them arguing that, no, I don't need to do it because of X. And if they make a good case, I think we're reasonable people up here. We're going to be willing to make an accommodation. But I do think it's nice to have a baseline. That's my comment.
I have some questions and comments on the guidelines. But before that, I'd just like to take a step back and say, prior to being tasked with this role, how were tennis courts evaluated? What department did that in the past?
So there was a time when all tennis courts came to this board to be reviewed. Alan remembers. I think after a while, the treatment for tennis courts became pretty much routine of sinking them 4 feet and putting fences around them, that it became delegated to the building inspector.
So how long has the building inspector been in charge of granting permits?
At least 5 years. During all of my tenure here, it's been at the building inspector who reviews tennis courts.
And do you know why now they're asking the planning board to become the arbiter in this department?
Well, I think because there aren't established guidelines for and it's relatively new.
Might we be coming up with the guidelines that will then be deployed by someone else at some other time if this becomes a very big?
It's possible. I think that the hope is that if the treatment for these becomes so standard and the impacts so few, and it becomes that routine, that it's just a matter of getting a permit from the inspector rather than having to come for a site plan review each time. I think that's a good goal, but because this is so untested, and I think there was concerns about what level of attenuation should be appropriate, the trustees decided that the planning board was in the best position to make that determination.
Have we determined, will existing pickleball courts be grandfathered? Will they be subject to this document or
anything
not?
That's pre-existing is lawfully pre-existing would not be subject to this code.
But changes or any kind of
Yes.
repairs that, will we ask them then to meet the new standard? I would think that they would be coming here?
I mean, ultimately, it's going to be this board's role to determine how to apply the standards and what standards may or may not be appropriate to a particular situation. But the way that the code reads is that any new courts would come to this board for site plan review, including the conversion of tennis courts or other courts to playing courts like these.
But existing pickleball courts, if neighbors start complaining, will be dealt with in a different way than, or would they be before us then as well? Because those sort of sound questions, that engineering, those studies were not available then.
Right.
And-
Certainly, everyone has to follow the village code versus in terms of the noise ordinance. So they may not be required to do anything, but they are required to follow the sound ordinance. So if they need to do something in order to come into compliance with that because the existing conditions don't allow for that, that might be an example where it triggers the need for further review.
And where did we land on the experts that we may want to bring in? If both sides of a debate have their own experts in sound
I think we
issues.
included that in this version of the draft at the board's request, that the planning board can bring in its own experts, similar like how you do for other applications.
And then would that be billed to the applicants?
I believe it likely would under the existing provisions, where the boards retain experts, and those are typically billed to the applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Hannah, any comments?
No, not at this time.
Okay. Michael, so that may versus shall issue that you'd mentioned to me before?
Yeah, I think it works okay here.
You're okay with that?
And just for
Andrew,
background,
okay?
I tried to distinguish may for, or and should for what are guidelines, and shall for what the code requires.
Yeah.
So that's how we typically try and draw that distinction.
Okay. The other section, I don't have it in front of me, was that section that dealt with specific STC requirements.
It's D6, Mark.
Yeah, thank you.
D6.
Yep. D6, yeah. Of 32,
Sound transmission class.
yeah, and a STC rating of
29.
29 for where there are openings. Any comment, questions on that section?
Well, I don't know
What that is?
what it is,
Yeah.
what that rating means.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be our expertise. If it's an issue, we can judge it.
Yeah, that was exactly what I mentioned to Alex earlier, which was, look, none of us are sound engineers, so putting a number in there that there is limited understanding of how it works and what it means gave me personally some indigestion, but Alex, why don't you explain to the board what you explained to me?
Yeah, I think the hope is to provide some guidance to potential applicants so they have some understanding of what's expected. STC is a sound transmission class, and as I understand it, certain materials have different ratings, and that tells you how much sound they dampen. We looked at a couple of products that are designed for screening athletic courts that can go on like chain link fences, and this seemed to be the type of numbers that we were seeing. Beyond that, there's of course materials that have higher sound transmission classes, but then we're talking about solid walls or things that are much more, I think, permanent and solid than the board was contemplating. So again, this is here as a guideline, as a suggestion to applicants because I think it'll help identify which products the board is expecting in terms of sound mitigation.
I have another question. If we are going to be requiring that we sink pickleball courts 4 feet or whatever the standard will be, what about the flooding? What about the water issues?
Yep, so there's also a guideline that they accommodate for drainage. And I know the board had a question about how much rainfall is appropriate. I don't know if Lisa is able to call in, but her and her team may have some thoughts on that. But the idea is that any stormwater would be accounted for.
But many people draw pickleball courts on top of existing tennis courts at ground level.
Mhm.
So if that were the option, they would not be required to sink the court if they're simply converting, adding to an existing tennis court?
Well, it would be subject to site plan review, so it would have to come before this board, and then you would have to make a determination in applying site plan review standards in your guidelines, whether they would have to sync it or whether, because of the existing design in that particular case, maybe that's infeasible or impractical. So there's other things that they might have to do instead.
So as this, as these guidelines currently stand in resolution form, can I get an idea where the board, individual board members stand on this? Are we ready to move forward on this, or do we need some tweaking or more discussion,
Because,
or
just
where are
because
we?
it's not redlined, can you go through, Alex, is it possible for you to say what changes were made where, and we'll follow you on these pages and just make sure that the shoulds and shalls are all ready to go?
Ooh, I don't know if I have that level of track changes. I had made the notes by hand at the last meeting of what the board wanted to change, and the version you have in front of you reflects that. So I don't have that level of tracking in front of me, I'm
Redlining
sorry.
in this room, that is like a standard thing, it would be very helpful.
Right, but everyone's seen a version of this. When did you send that out, Alex?
It was earlier this week.
Yeah, earlier this week. The only language we changed this afternoon before the meeting was.
I think you had asked that in the list of plantings, that it could say, not limited to the following,
Yeah.
to introduce the option that somebody may come up with something that the board finds acceptable
Exactly.
beyond that
We
list.
left the STC issue alone, right? We didn't
That,
change it.
that, I think we just indicated that that's a minimum, that somebody could come in with something more, if the board found that appropriate. And of course, it's a guideline, so if the board feels that that is not necessary and something less would suffice, you have that option as well.
We could approve
So-
with the caveat
so
to
at least that's-
modify if we find out.
There's your verbal red
I
line
need it.
from
I need that
between,
verbal red line.
From what happened today. All right, that being said, any other comments? Anyone feel that we need more discussion, more work? Are we ready to entertain a motion to adopt these guidelines?
If you entertain it, I will vote against adopting it yet.
Okay.
We need something, but not yet. It's not.
And just so I understand where you're coming from, the litany is what?
North Elm Street was a great example. It was absolutely wonderful example. But that wasn't a court. If these courts get popular, it's a different issue of administration by the center of the village of people with their property. That's a great example. That was a mess. It took a lot of maneuvering to get that before any responsible authority. Great example, but this is a different one.
So you don't want the litany of landscaping types in there, but it sounds like there's a second issue you have also.
I want us to hire a sound engineer if there's a dispute. And I want the people to work it out. It's very hard with your neighbors. This is what a village is all about. But you shouldn't tell your neighbors what to do. We shouldn't allow us to be the implement for telling people what to do. There's a lot of different things with courts, and we just heard that if somebody has an existing court, and it's not sunken properly. A lot of the courts weren't sunken properly. A lot of the courts went east and west instead of north and south. They weren't used for tennis. They were used to increase the resale value of the house so they could flip it. Lots of issues on tennis courts. It doesn't drive the bus.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand what we would need to do to kind of get to the goal line here. So you want no guidelines,
I want very few.
and just tell the people work it out. Yes, with editing, it's to come before, if there's a dispute, to come before the board with a judgment that there is or isn't a dispute.
Well,
Got
the
it.
board doesn't involve themselves in civil disputes between neighbors. The village gets involved in enforcing
They
our
come-
own code.
It's great work for the lawyers. They come before us with an argument, and we can accept or reject the argument. That's the grist of our behavior, whether you're a lawyer, a former lawyer, or any concerned citizen. That's why this job meets more than once a month. When there's a dispute, we ultimately referee it.
Well,
Okay. All right, I understand that.
Sage, are you able to tell if Lisa Rickmers is on Zoom? Okay. Lisa, if you're on, do you have any thoughts about the question about rainfall and drainage? I know the board had a question at the last meeting about whether 2-inch was sufficient or they should suggest something different.
I think that in general, 2 inches is consistent with what the village requires across, applications. The added benefit with the tennis courts and padel courts is that they are sunken, so there's a little bit of extra potential containment on site there. The board may want to consider, we tend to get rainfall events that are larger than 2 inches pretty commonly now. So I don't know if there's flexibility in those guidelines for, when in the cases where sinking the court and those things are not feasible, considering having higher rainfall might be worth considering.
And there's a housekeeping matter, it was 4 inches recently.
Yeah, that's why it came up in the last
4 inches.
meeting.
There's a major dispute, but depending on who's arguing for what.
Right, so.
4 inches is the most recent.
Right.
2 was ancient history.
Understood. So, Lisa, right now, the language reads, impermeable court surfaces and associated impervious improvements should be designated to fully capture and retain on-site runoff generated by a 2-inch rainfall event. Goes on and on. And your expert advice is that 2 inches is the right number for that, are these guidelines, or it should be higher?
So I would advise the village to reconsider its guidelines in general, because I think 2 inches is probably less than you would ideally capture. But what I would say is that, for consistency across the village, 2 inches is consistent with what is standardly required. That there, certainly in the case of a sunken court, you may have a little bit of extra protection. One of the big concerns with rainfall and runoff is it's going to then leave the site and flood neighboring properties, and that's probably less of a concern here with a sunken court. But in the case that perhaps you would like at least a little bit of language in there to allow the planning board, given the conditions of the site, to request a higher degree of rainfall. And if you'd like me to get an engineer, one of our engineers to weigh in, I can confirm I can give you a maybe preferred number.
So the next sentence is the drainage, after 2-inch rainfall event, it goes on to say, the drainage system should be designed to safely capture, convey, infiltrate, and retain the applicable design storm without overflow onto adjoining properties. I mean, that's the caveat that you just mentioned, yes?
Except that the design storm in this case is 2 inches. So that's what it's designed to contain.
Okay, so your expert advice then is that should be a higher number. Understood that the rest of the village code guidelines all say 2 inches. Your expert advice is that we should adopt a higher rainfall number. And certainly some of us on the board who are here for the Zosky thing have dealt with it, thank you. I was gonna say personal injury, but dealt's better, so dealt with that. So, we're familiar with how this can go. 2 or 4, Lisa?
Yeah, I think that, I'd like to have, to put in writing, a recommendation. I guess I'm comfortable having different standards for across the village. I think it may become a little confusing as to what standard the village is holding for its rainfall containment. But at minimum, I would suggest that be a minimum standard subject to the planning board's review of the conditions of the site, and that, the planning board have the ability to request greater containment where deemed necessary.
Alex, you want to weigh in on that?
I'm happy. I think that's a good solution. I mean, it is a guideline, so I'm happy to suggest, you could just incorporate the word minimum or as deemed necessary by the planning board.
All right, so we'll add that language.
Sure.
Okay, everybody good with that language?
Yep.
All right. I'm just going to go down the row here and check in with everyone. Hannah, are you good moving forward with a resolution here, or do you want more time?
No, I'm fine.
You're good, Amanda?
Mhm.
I am, but as I mentioned, so long as we have the ability to modify and change as we learn more and educate ourselves and things arise.
We always have the ability to do that through resolution, so we
Yeah.
just have to bring it
Okay,
up in a
let's-
meeting, discuss it, and
Okay.
make a motion and vote. So, yeah, I think we do retain that. Alan, we know where you stand.
I'm fine with it.
You're fine with it. All right, so, Alex, do you want to read the language, or do you want to, we were just discussing, just so it's fresh in everyone's mind, and then I'm, for that 2-inch event, and then I'm going to make a motion to adopt this resolution as it sits in front of us here.
Sure. So I amended it to say, under G3, impermeable court surfaces and associated impervious improvements should be designed to fully capture and retain on-site runoff generated by a minimum 2-inch rainfall event or as deemed appropriate by the planning board. The drainage system should be designed to safely capture, convey, infiltrate, and retain the applicable design storm without overflow onto adjoining properties.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to make a motion that we adopt these guidelines and through this resolution as it sits in front of us. We all have a copy of it with the language that Alex just read. Second, please.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I prefer to abstain as
Okay.
opposed to oppose
All
under
right.
light of the larger circumstances that
Understood.
pertain to me.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Great. So
All right.
we'll have that filed with the clerk, and we'll make it available on the building department website.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on, next on our list is 609 Hampton Road. Mr. Bennett.
Exit.
I think Kim was, I don't know if she's able to join online, but I think she was drafting a resolution for this. I don't know if she was able to share that with the board members.
Yeah, we spoke to Kim today. She said it was
I
drafting a
haven't s-
resolution of approval. This has been postponed how many times? And we've said every time, design it the way you want to. I started saying that 3 months ago.
Yeah, there was no
At our-
resolution.
Yeah, no, we're trying.
And, Lisa will tell you that every time the engineer wanted something done or you wanted something done, we did it. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, appreciate that. We're on board. We're just waiting for the resolution, but I don't think any of us got a resolution, right? So,
No, not on that.
Yes, I did email it to you, to the entire board last week. It was an email to Alex. Alex forwarded it to the rest of the board with the resolution for 609 Hampton Road and 2 other resolutions.
I only got the 2 others.
Alex, do you have a copy of that?
Yeah, I'll
I'll
find
tell
it.
you what, just to help move this along, if anyone wants it,
Can
hang on a second, I'm going to print it out, Alex, and distribute it to everyone. We'll read it here and we'll get this thing done tonight.
Okay, as long as I'm up here, you have no schedule for subdivision review. This is the Marin subdivision. It was approved some time ago. And I spoke to Kim today. ICE dropped the maps off for signature to the planning board over a month ago.
Yep.
I'm not used to waiting for a month for the planning board to sign the map because it's a purely ministerial action. And now it's lapsed. Never happened to me before because usually people don't take weeks and weeks and weeks to literally sign the name to the subdivision map. It's average it's a 2-lot subdivision in a 3-acre zone. The lots are over 4 acres. It's literally a layup. I've got the health department approval. I spoke to Kim. She was drafting a resolution to extend the time. And if somebody could please either extend the time or just sign the map.
Why?
So, John, can I speak on that more?
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
sorry, Kim. Yeah, of course.
All right, so with the 180 days, I did get a letter from Gailey, and she's asking for the extension in order for it to be signed. I did speak to the chairman earlier today about you're talking about 137 Cooper's Neck Lane, correct?
Yes. It's the
Okay.
Marin
So
subdivision.
I did speak to the chairman about putting it on for an extension resolution at our next meeting.
Oh, all right. Okay, that's fine. Just,
So, but hang on a second,
Yeah.
please. Why is the map not been, why haven't I signed the map? Or
nobody put it in front of you.
We received it in the building department, and the approval had expired. and
No,
we-
no, no, no. Before it expired, the map was in front of you. You didn't put it in front of the chairman for the signature. That's what happened, Alex. Let's not.
I don't believe that's correct, but yeah,
That's
we.
exactly
Well,
100%
wait,
correct.
Please, John. All right, look, okay, whatever happens, I'm sorry. We're
No,
gonna
no,
get-
no,
we're
no.
gonna
If
get
it's
this-
gonna go
we're
on
get-
for,
we're-
it's
we're
been
gonna get
years,
this
so if it's gonna go on,
fixed.
but I just don't want people hiding.
Just so everybody knows, if you're not familiar with this was that Cooper's Neck large development that was split into two small pool. It was some auxiliary building that they said they'd move if they ever built, so everybody. So can we, so we just need a,
on
we
July
just need
8th.
a resolution tonight, which just extends the
extend.
dent, you're right. So, motion to adopt,
I'll move that, this
yeah.
is,
Second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That helps. And the maps are with you, so you
Maps
can.
around somewhere, so as soon as somebody puts.
We
it in front
delivered
of
them
me,
on July 8th. We delivered 5
I-
paper prints and 5 Mylar
I'm
prints.
happy to sign this as soon as I see.
Somebody's just got to put it in front of you, that's
Yeah,
all.
Okay, all right.
And then the other one, I mean, I prefer, I'm here, it's the first one on. What are we?
Which one is it?
The first one we talked about is the site plan review.
609 Hampton Road, that's where some of the offices are changing to medical. I do have it here that was sent, so I don't know how to make it more efficient for the board to get a copy of the resolutions, but I can read it if you like.
Yeah, why don't you? Because, I mean, we've been waiting to sign this one too.
I'm going to grab it.
Yeah, as far as I know, the only thing,
Was the entrance, was it?
no, that's all been resolved.
Yeah.
It's Kim, help me, it's the
Yes,
transfer,
I
it's the
can
Pine
read
Barren
it.
credit transfer,
Yeah,
but we're
that's-
not, but that doesn't apply here. So
That's
we're-
a subject of the health department.
Yeah, that, and,
Yes.
yeah,
So
so,
they're looking for site plan approval to convert a portion of the existing one-story building. It's 10,348 square feet of mixed-use retail shopping center, and they're going to convert some of that space to a wet store with food and medical office with no expansion of footprint. You'll recall, I believe in our August 3rd meeting, we waived the public hearing because there was no expansion of footprint. The property is 1.23 acres, and they're looking to convert 705 square feet of retail space to wet store with food and 2,225 square feet of retail space to medical office, with the remaining tenant spaces to remain unchanged. This is the application where they received health department approval to replace the existing conventional on-site sewage disposal system with a new innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment IA system. And they're going to connect the entire shopping center to the new IA system as an additional mitigation measure to protect water resources. And as I said, on August 3rd, we waived the public hearing as no expansion of footprint of the existing footprint is proposed. And then on August 5th, Mr. Bennett's office submitted revised site plans incorporating the changes that the board asked for, illustrating the reduction of the landscape island adjacent to the exit on Hampton Road, and striping extended the widening of the exit lane to 12 feet in width onto Hampton Road, and modification of the directional arrows adjacent to County Road 39A to depict a double arrow entry.
okay, thank you. Everybody has a map of this in their package tonight. It was really just a striping and traffic flow issue here, which I think has been solved. And thank you for being flexible on that.
As I said, whatever you guys want.
Yep,
Yeah.
so
I got two
I'll give everybody a second to read this.
Yeah, I did read this before. I think Kim was too diligent. She got it out so early, nobody noticed it. I think it's fine.
Everybody,
I was looking.
No, not 1 square foot is being added to the facility. So you guys wanted to put some signage in terms of egress and egress, and we were fine with that.
it's that
striping.
Hampton Road exit. It
Yes,
was-
yes,
that
yes,
was
fine.
the thing
Whatever you guys
that
wanted.
got
That's
fixed, so
fine.
I think we're good to go.
It's the definition of wet store.
Say that again?
It's a wet store. What's that definition generally? Do they mean wet
There's
store
a
with food?
Board of Review approval, which is outside your jurisdiction, but there's a Board of Review approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services dated September 13th, 2024, allowing this.
So food, basically, John, right? That's what she's asking. What store means, it's, instead of
Oh, I'm
being
sorry.
retail, it's food service.
It could be like a takeout
Yeah.
place.
I just wondered, what store, is that?
Yeah, it's a
drinks,
classification by the health
It's
department.
food.
Mhm.
Just food and drink and,
It's a creature of health department nomenclature, not zoning nomenclature. The use is allowed in the zone.
Okay, motion to adopt the resolution for 609 Hampton Road, please. Second? Second, thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks very much. Thanks for getting it.
With apologies, Mark, as I mentioned, I've got it.
All right, thanks. Let's go to 120 Downs Path, please.
I didn't receive anything new from the applicant. Is there anybody here or on Zoom for this application?
That's RDCD Properties. Nobody here for that one? Okay. All right. 22 Windmill Lane.
Mark, I believe on 22 Windmill Lane, at the last meeting, they said they had to go back to the zoning board of appeals to make their parking stalls conform to our engineering suggestions.
Right.
So-
Yeah, so can you just state your name for the
Yes,
record?
yeah, Rick Wasowski, the Rayner Group, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill. So I was able to revise the plans to keep the number of spots that we had zoning board approval for. And I resubmitted those plans, I think, August 5th. Those plans that were submitted addressed all of the comments from the engineer. So we were required to have 8 spaces, and there's 8 provided.
we don't have the camera up. One second.
Yep, and these should be the same plans that the
Oh,
board
okay.
members have.
Okay, we'll look on here then. We're not.
Dated August 4th. This is page C2.
Page 3, this is all the parking area spots.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 2 main issues that we had, the engineer commented on was the parking spaces, which I've
Yep.
accomplished, and then also the drainage. This is page C3. Now providing detention for a 2-inch storm event, and then once these detention structures are full, it'll go into these infiltration units and percolate into the ground. And that captures stormwater runoff from the entire property. I don't think the engineers had a chance to review these plans yet, but
Yeah. Thank you,
been
that
like-
was my next question.
yeah, I think it's been probably 10 days that they probably had it.
Yeah, I'll just comment, yeah, Mike Heffer, who is the one who previously reviewed the plan, is reviewing the revisions. I actually have a meeting scheduled with him tomorrow to go over any comments that he has, so he's begun his review. I don't know that he's gotten through all the details in the plan yet, but
Okay.
we should have any comments from him this week.
So is there anything else you were looking for tonight from us, or how can we help tonight?
No, I think we were talking about scheduling the public hearing potentially by addressing these issues. I don't know if that's actually the case.
Well, I think that would be the next step, if the board feels that that's appropriate, is to set the date for the hearing. I know there's an item later on the agenda about rescheduling the September meeting, so I want to do that in conjunction with that.
I think we're ready to schedule a public hearing. That's the good news. The bad news is that the 2 scheduled meetings in September, both are holidays, so later in the meeting, we're going to try and come up with a special, off our usual Monday night
Okay.
schedule for one September meeting.
Okay. That
That'll
would
be,
be,
right now, I mean, it's subject to everyone's availability, but we're looking sort of mid-September.
Okay.
So that works.
yeah, that works for me, and yeah, I'll notify the applicant, see if, if he wants to be here to address
Okay.
any issues, but
Right.
that works for me.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments on this one? Yep.
Hey, being solved,
Good,
moving ahead, that's wonderful.
good. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to do this, again, I'm going out of order here, I know, I apologize. 36 Windmill Lane. Anyone here for that? Okay, that was easy.
Shipments.
Let's
So
go-
for that one, I'll just mention, there was a hearing at the Board of Zoning Appeals. They
Yeah.
did close the hearing, but have not adopted a written decision. As you remember, this board was the lead agency the last time that was reviewed. So you may have to amend the secret determination that the zoning board and the health department rely on.
Yeah.
So I understand that the board is waiting to see what happens with the special exception. There may be action required to amend that before they're able to do that. But also the application of the zoning board no longer matches what's before this board, so we're going to need some revised submissions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let's go Meadow Club next, and I know we've
Going
got
out,
some
all right. Yeah.
recusals, just to remind, yeah,
Agenda two,
I know we're down to 2 members.
We can't go on to 2 members.
I can't go
We
on.
don't have a quorum unless we have 3 members present.
So how do we, well, here's what I would say to you, and stop me if I can't say this, because we don't, I got an updated acoustical engineer report this afternoon at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock was when it finally landed, when I finally opened it.
We were
Right.
unable to get it until,
Understood, that's not a problem. It is a scientific paper, right? It takes some time to go through carefully, right? So
Understood.
I'm not sure there's a whole lot we can discuss tonight.
basically,
Even if we did have
I
a
was-
quorum, so,
I was.
Sorry, Mary Jane, we just need you to step to the microphone and introduce yourself,
yeah.
Mary
however.
Jane Asado, Brooksonic Asado. 21 South Main Street for the applicant.
Yeah.
I was not so much here to discuss the acoustic report because obviously you need to review it.
Yeah.
But I needed to submit it. I indicated that we would make best efforts. We got it late on Friday,
Yeah.
and I forwarded it to you today. What I am here to ask, because we've met all the submission requirements, and I believe that you wanted the additional detail, is to schedule this for a public hearing, because as you noted for the prior person that was on 22 Windmill Lane, there's only one date so far that's available, which is the 21st meeting. So, and I know that at the last meeting, you were concerned that we didn't have this report, so that you did not want to schedule it, but I believe that at this point, we meet all the site plan submission requirements, and that's really what I'm here for.
Thank you. Alex, do we have to agree to schedule this for a public hearing in this meeting, or can we do it between now and our next meeting?
That's something I'd want to ask board council. It's typically done by resolution at a work session.
Okay. Yeah, let's check with Kim, but right now, I can't schedule this for a public hearing at our next meeting because, one, I don't have a resolution, I don't have a quorum. Two, I think we've got to give the members that can listen to this time to really review the report and understand it. And if they have questions, I'd like that all done before we schedule a public hearing so that we don't
that's-
waste everyone's time and money.
You will have the acoustical expert here to answer any questions. And certainly, basically, that's really more appropriate at a public hearing, because as this report says, it's very difficult to summarize in a written report scientific information. And we did not want to incur the expense of bringing the experts here, except at a public hearing. Now,
Unless it's a public hearing.
Well, unless it's a public hearing.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it really, to have to be redundant, it's for not only expense, but to establish a record.
Yep.
As I indicated, I don't want to be, we meet all of the code's criteria for a public meeting, hearing to be scheduled.
Yeah, but sorry to interrupt, but what you don't meet are the guidelines, all right?
Guidelines?
The guidelines that we just adopted by resolution.
The guidelines that you adopted here clearly say that they exempt pre-existing courts.
But the structures that you're putting up are not.
No, so, first of all,
pre-existing.
I just wanted to clarify something. This fence, when we were at the ZBA, did not require any variances. So this proposed acoustical barrier, I know that there were some questions raised whether we actually got dimensional or wetlands variances for this proposed acoustical fencing. So I want to submit to you right now, there were no variances granted for this the proposed fencing. And so this fencing is to address neighbors' concerns on a pre-existing court, okay? So in fact, I would have said something, but for the fact that the guidelines are saying it's for prospective courts that are not pre-existing and legal. This court is pre-existing and it's legal, and we are basically trying to work out with the neighbors. I mean, as I said, this proposed fencing doesn't require any ZBA variances. We didn't get any variances, dimensional or otherwise. And we did get a wetlands permit, but that's because it's within the jurisdictional boundaries of what a special permit is required. So I just want to make very clear to you that this is other than site plan, and obviously because we have other site plan requirements, this is not a variance kind of situation for this fencing. And it's to address neighbors that they raise the noise ordinance, and we want to be good neighbors. And I think that falls well right within the four corners of your guidelines. It said you want neighbors to work it out, but you had guidelines, et cetera, and we have to comply with the existing code. We're trying to comply with the residential noise requirements for a pre-existing court. So I respectfully disagree with you that we don't meet the guidelines, because the guidelines are for new pickleball courts, not for pre-existing legal courts.
Before I answer, Kim, are we okay discussing this with Mr. McFarland and Ms. Holmain? Mrs. Holman, sorry.
And the group will make.
I believe that,
Still in the room?
I believe that in the past, board members that have recused themselves from applications have left the room. And I will only say that that would leave you, Chairman, and Hannah Abrams and Mr. Zinder as the three, and Mr. Zinder had left,
Yeah, but
from what I can see.
he
correct?
had to leave early tonight. He had a prior
Yeah, he was-
commitment.
Right.
Well, let me just say one thing, right? I read the report about the Adele courts. The report stated that in order to meet sound requirements, it depended on the wall being built to the southwest of those courts. That wall is 12 and a half feet tall. The guidelines say max is 10. Right, so it does not, I know you respectfully disagree, but it
Yeah.
does not meet the guidelines, right? So,
Are you talking about the Padel court?
yes,
Okay, so basically, we have an existing proposed fencing of 12.6 feet to address the pre-existing pickleball. And I was going to point out to the sound engineer and have him explain to you, that wall already currently extends beyond that point by 16 feet. In fact, what this report says is you need to extend the wall by 16 feet at 10 feet, all right? We already have a proposed 12 feet 6 wall, acoustical barrier for the pickleball, which will take care of what's, it's a redundancy is what I'm trying to explain.
but that's not what the report says. The report says that the Padel court, in order to meet the sound, the code, would have to depend on that pickleball wall to the southwest. That's what the report said.
It's the proposed wall, the 12.6 wall.
Correct.
It extends the full length.
Not as long as is required by the pickleball. But yes.
Yes. In other words, we have a proposed fence that extends beyond that. We'll have a clarification on that. In other words,
So you have a 12-foot-6 wall, right?
no, we have a 12.6 proposed wall.
Okay.
And the proposed wall is more than what's required. And
It's
I
taller
submitted
than
to.
what we're approving. That's what the guidelines say. It's 2.5 feet taller than what we're going, within the guidelines.
The guidelines are going to be ineffectual then,
We,
because.
we can't take testimony from the audience, and we don't have a quorum here for a work
We can't
session.
let this go any farther. Before we schedule a public hearing, okay, this needs to be,
We need to have a public
Addressed.
hearing so that they can explain why 12'6" is necessary. 10 foot will not work.
And that's for the pickleball court, by the way. Okay, so I will have, basically, I think what I
Okay.
misunderstand, what you're under the impression is that we need a acoustic barrier that is above and beyond what we're proposing for pickleball to address the fidelity.
yeah.
Okay.
I understand that.
That is not my understanding. I did have to call to clarify, okay, and he said that the wall that we're proposing for pickleball,
Listen, without getting into details, because we're on thin ice here, I'm happy to schedule a public hearing on this thing, but I'm trying to, I think the advice I would give is that you may be wasting your money, because it's, public hearing or not, with that wall as high as it is, right? And I understand that it has to be that high to pass. It's unlikely to get approval, in my view, right? If you want to, I'm just saying, if you want to move forward with that advice, that's your prerogative. I understand, we'll schedule a public hearing,
okay,
right?
I will speak to my
Does
clients.
everybody else agree with that perspective? Or
I think it's difficult with two people
I'm sorry,
who
do
should
you
be
agree with that?
I think we have to hold off.
Okay, fine. No,
Yeah,
hold off on a
I would
public
say-
hearing?
Yes, because we
Okay.
have to see the report and we have to look
Okay.
at it.
Then I can't schedule a public hearing tonight. Sorry. Next on the agenda is Hill Street Cinema. Hill Street Cinema.
Kim, do you want to preview why this was on the
Sure.
agenda? You can come to the podium.
Sure.
I know Kim was circulated something on this.
Okay, so can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, so we got a request, a letter from Victoria Khan asking to extend her site plan approval. And we did that at the last meeting to tonight's meeting. And today we received a letter from Ms. Khan stating that she's going to withdraw her application, her site plan. Actually, she's going to withdraw the request to extend it, which means that her site plan approval that was previously granted lapses, and she would have to submit a new application. The reason why Hill Street Cinema is on the agenda as well is that both of their resolutions of site plan approval were approved with the condition that there would be a pedestrian easement between the two properties. And one of them is the alleyway that's between Ms. Khan's property and the Southampton Playhouse property. And the other pedestrian easement starts at the 71 Hill Street property, which is the Southampton Inn property. And the staircase goes from 71 Hill Street, it goes across the Playhouse property and terminates at Ms. Khan's property. So that's the reason, one of the things that Ms. Khan disputed with me was that she said that she did not believe the condition with the pedestrian easement was reciprocal between her and the Playhouse. I went back and I spoke to Alex, I spoke to the chairman, I went back and looked at the minutes, and it clearly was reciprocal, meaning that they were both granting each other a pedestrian easement. So what I had on tonight was a resolution to amend that condition regarding the pedestrian easement in both of their approvals, making it clear that it was going to be reciprocal and not unilateral. But we don't even need to get to that now because Ms. Khan has withdrawn her request for an extension. So if she no longer is requesting an extension, that means her site plan approval has expired. At that point, her letter did say that she would have a land use consultant at the meeting tonight to discuss. One of the things that we observed was that the red brick that was on the Khan property extended over the property line onto the Playhouse property, and Ms. Khan's letter says that she was going to have a representative there tonight to discuss that part. I don't think that really involves the planning board. That is something that I know involves Hill Street Cinema, and I believe their counsel is there tonight. But at our very last meeting, counsel for the Hill Street Cinema for the Playhouse said that if the board didn't extend Ms. Khan's site plan approval, that means the Playhouse is still stuck with the same condition, and that the Playhouse would be requesting removal of the pedestrian easement condition. So that's the reason why it's on there. If Ms. Khan, by her letter, is withdrawing now her request to extend her site plan approval, then the two resolutions that I previously sent to the board changing the conditions is a moot issue.
Okay.
What Ms. Judd said. So I am back here again. I was here at the last meeting, and my clients, the Southampton Playhouse, formerly Hill Street Cinema LLC, are amenable to complying with the conditions of approval, but obviously if it's meant to be a reciprocal easement and one party isn't willing to partake in that easement, there's not much that we can do. So I think that we would respectfully request that our resolution of approval be amended to remove that condition if Ms. Khan's property is not seeking an extension of their site plan approval anymore. I don't think it would be fair for us to be held to a condition that we simply can't fulfill. But we are willing to fulfill it. But at this point, it seems like a practical impossibility.
And I think what we've sometimes done in other similar situations is we've made a requirement of one property owner that they file essentially their half of it, and then if a future property owner comes in on the other side, they effectuate the other half of that, so that they're not bound at this time, but they're responsible only for their own property. And I believe that's what Kim had discussed.
You're the neighbor, right?
My name is Mark Schiffer and represent Ms. Khan.
We would need you to come to a microphone.
Can you
So
step up to
are
a
we going
microphone,
to?
please?
Sure, but before we leave, though, could we have Kim Judd clarify if she meant that we would be granting a unilateral easement or no easement at all?
I'd like to address, please.
Look, we're talking about 43 Hill Street right now, so I only want to hear from 40. You'll have your chance in a minute, right? But it's not a public hearing, right? So
I'm here for,
you're here for 51.
no, I'm here for 51.
Yeah.
And I'm here
So when we get to
for
50,
Ms. Khan, not 51 Hill Street LLC.
I understand. But still, this is not a public hearing, so, right, I don't need to hear from anyone else.
No, but you-
Not unless you deem it helpful.
Yeah. Just stand by for 1 second, please. Kim, do you want to add anything?
I would just say from my reading of the minutes again, I wasn't present at the public hearing because I was not counsel at the time. It was meant to be a reciprocal pedestrian easement, not a one-sided easement. So I do know what Alex said is correct. In the past, when there's been a party that doesn't want to sign it, as long as one party signs it, we can hold on to, and I believe, Ms. Riker, you were involved in the one we're talking about, the other application.
Correct.
Initially, your party was the only one that would sign it, and your client signed that in the recording documents, and we had to hold it basically in abeyance until the other party agreed to do it. Is that something, Martha, your client would be amenable to?
What, holding it indefinitely in abeyance, or?
Well, just having you sign off on it and your client sign off it and holding those documents, and then we can say your conditions have been satisfied.
Sure. I mean, would the village hold those?
So your half,
I mean, I'm
like what Alex suggested, right, which is your half would be there and subject to.
Correct.
Yeah. Just a minute, please.
well, I mean, the current draft is drafted as a reciprocal easement, so it has both parties acting as grantor and grantee.
Yes.
And we can sign those and we can fill out the transfer forms, but I think that what I would want to do is leave them in the custody of the village, because obviously we can't record them if it's only been signed by one side, and I don't know when the other side would sign it, so I understand that we'd be satisfying the conditions of approval, but I don't think that it would be fair again for my client to have to retain me past satisfying the conditions of their site plan approval for, an unknown future date when the other adjoining property might come into compliance with the reciprocal easement request.
Kim, I think in the other case, didn't the two parties sign different pages and each record them independently? I don't think we waited until we had both signatures on the same document. I think to make sure that they could move forward, I think we just had you sign for one property that was filed, and then the other one was filed at a different time for the other property.
You have to have the grantor and grantee sign the transfer forms, otherwise the county won't accept it for recording. So even if it's just a one-way easement, you still need the grantee to sign the transfer forms.
Can I ask a question, just practically? I've driven there and tried to, so this becomes then, pedestrians cannot pass from the inn to the movie theater, or the movie theater to the inn, as we had
Sorry, this is not the inn.
What?
Sorry, this is not the inn. This is the movie theater and the adjoining commercial property.
The commercial property.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I mistook. I thought there was some.
There was, but that's a
lapse by the
separate.
other.
That's a
Okay.
separate
So
application.
this is the radio station?
Yes.
Hartford building?
Correct.
Okay, so,
dealership.
I mean, there's no impediment right now. I went to the movies last night and I walked down the alleyway. I didn't actually have reason to cross over onto 51 Hill Street, but there's no trespassing signs. There's no private property signs in between the two. I think this is formalizing the fact that there are, connections between these properties that have existed. But, I mean, absent the property owners putting up signs saying that you can't cross, I mean, I think that practically people still do. Just like the staircases that is existing that crosses from, is it 71 Hill Street to the Playhouse property and then to the adjoining property owned by Miss Khan. So, I think that, again, the planning board is trying to formalize some of these cross-access easement areas.
Hannah, help me out here, but as I recall, and Alan, you too, we viewed this as sort of a package deal between the Southampton Inn, the interim property,
Right.
and the theater, and that pedestrian access was a significant part of it was a big part of the discussion in getting everything approved back there, and getting everyone comfortable with the design. So losing that would be tragic, and I don't think we're prepared. I'm not prepared
we have
to
not given any
abandon
good
that.
reason to do that. We've
Yeah.
actually been ignored, and
Yeah,
it's rather.
I mean, I
I'm
was
just- I'm
very
have that
keen
right?
on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So, I look to the board's guidance. As I've said, the Playhouse is happy to sign whatever they can sign, but if the other party doesn't sign, whether it's a unilateral or a reciprocal easement, if the transfer forms aren't signed by both parties, you can't record them. So, I can have my client sign and entrust them with the village for a later time, but there's no way that I could possibly actually record them.
Understood. Thank you. Kim, will that work for
Yes,
you?
that works. Yes, I believe so, and I believe that's the same arrangement we were going to have between the Playhouse and Southampton Inn when there was an issue as to whether or not Southampton Inn was going to sign. They ultimately did, but I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with her client signing the pedestrian easement as Martha and I had already negotiated it, and as long as her client signs the transfer forms and we'll retain it. And just to let you know also, because we are going to go on and speak with 51 Hill Street about their letter, they withdrew their request for an extension. That does not legitimize the site work that they've already done. So there is some site work that was done. For instance, there's red brick patio that was built in the back that our site plan approval says gravel. There were trees planted in an area that was supposed to be stairs. So when we do get to 51 Hill Street, the fact that they withdrew their extension request doesn't mean the improvements that they did they still have to go through the site plan process for those other improvements they did.
Yep, understood. And at this point, I don't want to get,
Okay.
I don't want to get our 43 Hill Street confused by what's going on with 51 Hill Street. I'm trying to keep them
Okay.
as separate as possible
Okay.
right now. But in order to sort of memorialize what we're talking about here, Kim, what specifically do we need to resolve?
Well, with the Playhouse, the only condition, you have one of two choices. You can either, at some point, amend the Southampton Playhouse site plan or resolution by removing the pedestrian easement requirement, which from what I just heard is something that you don't want to do. Or we can't compel 51 Hill Street to sign a reciprocal, so then if Ms. Reichert has her client, the Playhouse Hill Street Cinema, sign the easement as we negotiated, and the recording documents, we can hold them in the village file, and that would satisfy the Playhouse's conditions of their approval.
But the board needs to, the planning board needs to make a resolution to that effect, correct? And is that a written resolution that we'd have to consider, that you have to draft, correct?
I don't think you need to have a written resolution because they complied with their half. They're going to sign it, but if you would like me to put it in a resolution form, I'd be happy to do that.
What do you think, Hannah?
I mean, it formalizes what we're saying, so I think,
Okay.
I think a resolution is warranted.
Okay,
I would
Okay.
prefer it to be in writing, so one day when I'm not here.
are you okay
Yeah.
with that strategy?
Yeah, as long as it's that we sign it and submit it to the village for the village to hold
Yep.
until such time as it can be recorded, I'm happy with that. That way the Playhouse can get its C of O.
All right, perfect. But before we close the book on this one, I'm curious, I would like to hear from the neighbor on this specific issue.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mark Schiffer, a professional engineer. I'm here to represent Victoria Khan, the owner of 51 Hill Street. And my office happens to also be at 53 Hill Street. So I think there's a little bit of somewhat of a confusion whereby the Playhouse, the way this came about, was that the Playhouse and the cinema approached Ms. Khan to open a restaurant at that location, and they were in negotiation. And one of their conditions was to get approval for the restaurant at that location, and then it was their professional who went ahead and did it. They are the applicant. Ms. Khan has nothing to do with it. And I understand that the negotiation fell through, and now the disapproval lapsed. And there was the requirement of a pedestrian easement between the two properties was something that the Playhouse put in request, but Ms. Khan had nothing to do with this request, or even was asked whether this was fine. So what I was, and on behalf of Ms. Khan, I sort of followed up all of the approvals, and at the July 1st meeting, on the minutes of the meeting, it mentions about a vehicular cross-access easement between the two properties. What happens is that the north portion of 51 Hill Street was used for the parking area, was used for all the deliveries to 51 Hill Street. It was used also as the parking area, and when they improved the parking lot of the movie theater, they did leave, made the access a lot smaller, but they did leave the access for vehicular access to be able to service the garbage area of 51 Hill Street, the septic system of 51 Hill Street, to also allow for deliveries for 51 Hill Street. So you need to have vehicular access to that, for that property. The pedestrian access, from what I understand and when I've reviewed the initial approvals of the movie theater, when it actually was initially built, the passageway between 51 Hill Street and 43 Hill Street is a public access way. So there is really no need, and there is an access way, there is a pedestrian access from Hill Street to the rear of 51 Hill Street. And this is why 51 Hill Street has actually a street address of 53 Hill Street. The back of 51 Hill Street has a street address of 51 Hill Street. That building has 3 street addresses, 51, 53, and 55. And so I'm not exactly sure why there's a need for a pedestrian access between 43 Hill Street and 51 Hill Street, because it exists through the public easement that's between the two buildings. And I would like to, I mean, you have here the minutes of meeting. You want to see it, or I can show you chair that says that there should be a vehicular access, and that vehicular access, what happens is that the vehicular access, once we received this, Ms. Khan was absolutely willing to sign the vehicular access, cross-access between 51 Hill Street and 43 Hill Street, and Gil Flanagan, who at that time represented the movie theater, drafted a vehicular access between 43 Hill Street and 51 Hill Street, and Victoria Khan signed that vehicular access. So there, it's up to 43 Hill Street to sign their side of that easement. But that easement was prepared by the lawyers of 43 Hill Street and signed by Ms. Khan. So I think that there is a little confusion as to what the requirements are. Now, I would like to definitely address the extension of the brick patio. It was not really.
Stop. I'm going to stop you there, because that
Okay.
does not have anything to do
Okay, fine.
with, we're getting ahead. I want to keep these as separate as we possibly can. So right now, we're just dealing
Okay, fine.
with 43. Interested in your comments on why, on the pedestrian access issue. Any questions? So the part that I don't understand with what you said was, all we're talking about here, in the original kind of redevelopment or renovation of the theater and the Southampton Inn, the planning board was shown this cafe, for lack of a better word, behind 51, and it was all part of a nice, interesting little package we were shown. And we felt that being able to have clear pedestrian access, a walkway, so that you can move between those 3 buildings easily was important. And now what we understand is that theater's fine with it, Southampton Inn is fine with it, but the person in the middle who had agreed to say, all right, I'll have this walkway across the back of my property, is no longer okay with it.
No, I'm sorry.
So what am I missing?
Absolutely missing. Ms. Khan was never, ever part of those negotiations. This cafe was designed and presented and applied for by the movie theater.
But
Pursuant to negotiations that were being held between Ms. Khan and the movie theater. But Ms. Khan had nothing to do with the little steps was there was
Those wooden steps that are
those
there.
wooden steps could be anywhere. Things like in a day 2 men will move the steps. I mean, they are just like
So I understand. So Alex, don't we have a signed application by the property owner of 51 Hill Street for that plan?
We do. We wouldn't have taken in an application without authorization from the owner, and we have an authorization, an agreement from the owner to abide by the conditions of site plan approval, which is a requirement.
Right, but the,
I will just say, Chairman, that Ms. Khan signed an affidavit that's affixed to the back of the site plan saying that she will conform with the requirements for site plan approval.
absolutely, provided if this cafe was gonna be built, if a permit was going to be applied and issued for this cafe, absolutely. But in this case, no health department approval was obtained, no building permit was obtained, it was, the only item that was approved was the planning board approval.
So,
And as part of the negotiation, because at that time Ms. Khan was still in negotiation with the Playhouse, Ms. Khan asked for an extension, but then it appears that the negotiation fell through, and Ms. Khan is not, this is the child of the Playhouse, it's not the child, see, and this access that was there was, if they're not gonna build this cafe, then it's a moot point.
so it's your argument, if I understand it correctly, that she was only okay with the pedestrian access and signed an application and an agreement to abide by that if the cafe was built. But if the cafe wasn't built, the deal's off, and I don't want a walkway between these two. They're my property.
Exactly, no,
Okay. I understand your argument.
She just
Yeah.
allowed, they asked them to, will you allow us to apply? They said they wouldn't sign the whatever it was, the lease or for that property unless they had the approval for the cafe.
Yeah.
So Ms. Khan signed just to allow them to apply. But there was no, there's no health department approval on this, there was no.
I understand.
But this property is still benefiting from access from the adjoining property, because that's where the alleyway is, correct? So your people are currently able to access the rear of that property through 43 Hill Street.
The space, the alleyway between 51 Hill Street and the movie theater is a public access way. You can look it up on the movie theater dating back to the 1990s. That section here is a public access way. The property line, between the property line of 51 Hill Street and 43 Hill Street, this is a public access way. That people can go from Hill Street to the parking area. And there is, in between the two, there's an access in front of the outdoor to go to the back of 51 Hill Street. 51 Hill Street used to be the Southampton Hospital Physical Therapy Center, and people would go, and it was.
So, the movie theater owns that walkway between the two properties. How is a public access walkway allowed on private property?
There was an easement to the village, a public access easement that had to do with municipal parking that was at one point on that property, which I'm told has since expired.
Right.
I'm sorry. Here again, this is a misconception. I've been in the village for over 20 years now. Can assure you that now the lease was strictly on the maintenance of there was an agreement made between the village and the movie theater at that time, whereby actually the village built the parking lot and they maintained the parking lot with the caveat that this parking lot would also be a public parking lot. And there was, that lease was I think a 20-year lease or whatever, and it expired.
Right.
And at that time, Mark Epley elected not to renew it, and you know.
Right.
To renew the lease, because I think the previous owner at that time there was no money involved. But when the movie theater went out of business, the new Ken Collin decided to ask the village for money for the use of that parking for public. Not only the maintenance, but he asked for money, not only just for the village to maintain and to do the snow removal and of the parking, but he asked for money, and the village was not willing to pay any additional money. And then he said, in this case, I'm not gonna go for it. But this was strictly for the parking area. It was not for this.
Right, so it was an agreement, as I understand it, between the village and 43 Hill Street. It was not an agreement between 51 and 43.
No.
That's what the planning board chair was asking about. That's what the agreement that they were trying to provide for, to ensure that those properties would continue to be open to one another.
Our understanding is that the property, this alleyway, where you have.
The alleyway is on the other side. It's towards you. North is up in this view.
On the east side.
Oh, sorry, north is to the right.
Yes, on the east side, on the south side, this area here. This area here, up to here.
Mark, we need you to be in a microphone, otherwise we can't record any of your testimony. You could sit
The
right
area
there.
on the south, on the east side of 51 Hill Street, that area is either a public easement, public access. It's meant for the public. It was allowed as part of when they built the movie theater, and this is the access for the back of 51 Hill Street. And there is there's a walkway. The bricks are there. Physical.
Okay, thank you. Got it. All right. Appreciate your comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to address. May I address the patio issues?
On which issue?
The
No,
patio.
we're going to get to that
Okay,
separate. I want
okay,
to
thanks.
finish up on this one first, but yeah, we'll
All right,
come back
thank
to you
you.
in a minute.
Thank you.
Hannah, anything? What's your
Well,
view?
I want a pedestrian walkway. I mean, that's what we've wanted from the get-go.
Correct. And this is a pedestrian walkway across the back in an east-west orientation.
Right.
Correct. And right now, the north-south pedestrian walkway is private property that may have been a pedestrian access in the past, but that agreement expired in your view.
No.
I'm asking Alex, not the audience.
At least with regard to the public parking, I don't know about a pedestrian easement on that alleyway that's owned by the theater.
Yeah, does the attorney for for 43 Hill Street have a view on this issue? I'd be curious.
No, I don't. I don't have any sort of title work to understand what prior easements or covenants may exist recorded against these two properties. But I know that the village planner has probably reviewed prior site plans. And so I don't have that information, but I can certainly look into it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember it coming up at the time of the site plan approvals. I think the idea was to formalize the access that we all know is existing and, as you noted, is open today, just to ensure that it would continue to operate in the way that it has been.
Yep, understood. Thank you. So, my inclination is to go with Alex's original halvesies idea, which is, we get something in place for 43, and the village holds on to it, and eventually, somehow, this pedestrian access, which was a very important part of our consideration for all of these, the Southampton Inn, theater, and everything in between. So, important part of our consideration and eventual approval of those applications. Does that sound like the right approach to you?
Absolutely.
And Amanda?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice to have someone pull together all the research and look through everything, get some definitive answers on what was done and what stopped short and where we are,
Yeah.
so we can all understand this better.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I'm inclined to move forward on at least getting 43 done so that they
Sure,
can,
but
their
it's-
legal expense is they can put this on the
Exactly,
shelf
but-
and come back to it when
Mhm.
Thank you.
necessary.
They are a not-for-profit. So.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Alan, are you good with that approach?
Pedestrian access is just fine.
Okay, all right, so,
So I think Kim can prepare that in advance of the next
I started
meeting.
with the Mercedes deal that was
Yes.
there.
Thanks.
In the back of
Thanks, Kim.
That building was the Mercedes deal.
was there access then?
I'm just kidding. There was access between the old
Theater,
theater
yeah,
and the Mercedes deal.
and the parking lot in the back.
And the parking
Yeah,
lot.
I know it's been there a long time, it's just who owns it and what's what's been recorded. So, Kim, can you give me a hint on how we do this? What exactly do we need to resolve, or do you draft something, Kim, or, yeah, we want to
Yes, I
draft?
think it was, what we said earlier was I was going to draft a resolution to formalize that the condition for the Playhouse,
Yep.
that they can submit their documents, their signed easement, their signed recording documents, and we will hold them in our files until we can resolve what's going on with 51 Hill Street.
Okay, perfect. Work
Thank
for
you.
you? Yep, that works?
Yes, that
Yep.
works for
And
me.
I will do that for our next meeting when we decide when that date is.
Okay,
Which we still
great.
have to do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Everything good? You're
Yeah.
good? Okay.
Do you
All
need
right.
me to attend that next meeting, or the board can adopt its resolution? I don't need to.
All are welcome.
I appreciate
You,
that.
you could also call in by Zoom if that makes it easier for you.
All right, let's move on to 51 Hill Street now.
Hello?
Yes. So,
Yeah, go ahead.
all right, so for the record, again, my name is Mark Shepard. I'm here representing the owner of 51 Hill Street, Victoria Khan, and I wanted to address some of the comments that were made at the last meeting in connection with the patio. So, at that time, the movie theater and Ms. Khan were in negotiation to open a cafe in the back, and the back area of 51 Hill Street was essentially used as a staging area for the construction of 53 Hill Street. I have here an aerial photo of 2024 that showed. Show you, or should I put it here?
You should put one there, too.
So let me put one here. Okay, so on this picture here, you can see that the parking area of the movie theater was at the same level as the back area of 51 Hill Street. That it was the same, the same area. People, we would drive trucks, we had like trailers, trucks, parking in the back of 51 Hill Street. It was going to drive through the parking, through the, from Windmill Lane over the parking area and park and use that area. It was at the same level. Now, when 51 Hill Street built, renovated their, rebuilt their parking area, when 51 Hill Street rebuilt their parking area, see, they created this area here, there was a landscaped area, and they raised the level of their parking area. So that they left a space here where we could still drive through here as a single car, so that we could service the septic system that's here, and service the garbage here, and also make the deliveries to for 51 Hill Street and the radio station. So when for whatever reason, when the movie theater repaved at a different grade, they only repaved it to this line here. So Ms. Khan, out of her own funds, and generously continued the brick to there, to where it was paved, and created the slope such that it's still, you're still allowed to drive onto the back of 51 Hill Street.
But
And
that's,
also
sorry,
the
that's not,
landscape-
what she did there is not her property, though, correct? That red
No, I
line?
understand, but it was done in conjunction with the movie theater, with Jay Bialski there, everybody was there. You see, when they, here is, what's that, let me turn it. See, when they built, the 43 Hill Street decided to build a wall between the two properties. see, they decided to build a wall between the two properties. When they built the wall between the two properties, they excavated 51 Hill Street property. They excavated the 51 Hill Street property. So so here you can see actually where I have a picture that shows the excavation. Here you can see that they excavated in here, in this area here, they excavated 51 Hill Street property. So then Ms. Scott, at the end, we just finished that area, and they were absolutely fine with it. You see, and then the landscaped area, this landscaped area that went all the way to here, you know, that's where the little steps are. I think the little steps are, the little steps could easily be turned the other way and go over here. So you have the pedestrian access, you have nothing to do. To just turn the little steps, go the other way, through the landscaped area here, and walk over. It's absolutely no problem. It's something that in 3 days gets done. So this was just for aesthetic reason, not to actually, it served the movie theater, so they didn't have to bring back an asphalt truck to put asphalt in the space that was left over there. There is no, but all this work has absolutely nothing to do with this application. This work here was required as part of the movie theater regrading their parking lot. No relevant, no connection with the cafe. See here, I think Ms. Scott and the movie theater are good neighbors. They talk to each other. They work together. We wanted to, and you know, and if the cafe is there, if they want to do it, they absolutely can do it. But
So
Were any permits sought for that work that you're describing? The extension of the brick patio in that gravel area?
well, I think on their plan, I don't know, I don't have the plan of the movie theater, but they should have really put the asphalt. They were supposed to grade it to the property of 51 Hill Street. Instead, they raised, that area was raised, and they only paved here, so we couldn't possibly drive over. There had to be something that had to be done in between. So instead of putting asphalt, we talked to the contractor, who said, listen, we'll extend the brick. We said, fine, we'll extend the brick. You know, if you want to, you know, if they are willing, we cannot block our access. We cannot block 51 Hill Street access. That's why they left this access here. So either they put asphalt or we put brick.
So Alex, explain to me how access over private property to 51 works.
Well, the board had wanted there to be a pedestrian access between the two neighbors to ensure that it would.
Yeah, vehicular.
I don't believe that was part of the site plan approval. I mean, we typically don't get involved with, you know, civil matters between neighbors. There's obviously no parking on this property, so there wasn't a concern about parking between the properties. It really, I mean, it seems like they have issues of deliveries and servicing their septic system. That's usually not, I don't remember that being something the planning board had gotten involved in.
So that's what I'm confused about. It's sort of, why are we discussing that here? Because that's not part of our mandate, right? This access stuff. I mean,
That the vehicular access was mentioned on your minutes of meeting. Pursuant to you mentioning and asking to formalize the vehicular access, the movie theater drafted an easement, a vehicular access easement between the two properties, and Ms. Khan signed that agreement.
But lots of things get mentioned here that aren't actually
But this-
adopted or by resolution. I mean, just saying it was mentioned, right? I don't remember this ever being part of the approvals, right? Am I, your memory's better than mine.
Well,
What do you remember?
I wasn't here in July 2024, so I don't know what was said at that meeting.
Right.
So I started in August. But I do recall this, the site plan approval resolutions, and it talked about pedestrian walkway. I don't recall anything about vehicular access.
Neither do I. Yeah, neither do I. Alan, what do you remember? I don't remember. What do you remember?
I didn't focus on it because I thought that access between the inn and the movie theater was irrelevant.
I remember that too. Okay. All right, and this all predates.
Well, I'm just saying, we spoke a lot about pedestrian, and that's why I actually, went and looked at the wrong thing, but I was there, so I'm looking at, everything we're talking about today, and, but I was confused because we worked so hard on the movie theater and the neighbor, and now we're talking about this pedestrian between, not the movie theater and the, anyway, we're talking about some other area.
Literally,
Yep.
right now, there's just a little steps, there's a walkway, there's
Oh,
a
and they're
pathway between, off 71 Hill Street that the customers of 51 Hill Street will use. And there's a big difference in elevation, so a couple of 6x6 were installed to make like a little steps. This was maybe, 25 years ago. But it's really very easy to just relocate it, like at 45 degrees at the same location, and then let them go only through over 43 Hill Street property, which is that landscape area. Right now, from a practical standpoint, people walk over the bricks, the patio. They walk over. It's not an issue. But it's a different issue than to actually put it on the deed.
So those wooden steps that are there now, how long have they been there?
I would, maybe 18 years.
And when we approved this pedestrian access, I don't remember steps. I
recall
remember it being
steps.
handicap access.
It was the existing steps.
It was the existing
That's right.
steps. So the wooden steps we said were fine?
I believe, at least at that location, they were designed to meet the grade elevation and connect with the sidewalk that was approved at the hotel site.
And wooden steps, and they were shown on the drawings as
I
wooden steps?
I believe so.
But I think Mr. Chair has a great point, that it should be handicap accessible. It should be a slope between 71 Hill Street. It's actually a great point. It should not be those steps. You're absolutely right.
So what are we trying to resolve here for 51? What are we trying to decide? Because I'm
Well,
confused.
this site plan has since lapsed and is no longer viable. I know the board was concerned that there was work done on this site without permits that did not match the approved site plan. And there's also the board's concern that the pedestrian easement has not been signed that affects this property in terms of cross-access between the adjoining movie theater, which was always the plan.
Okay, so let's address those individually. Number one, the original approval has lapsed, but they're withdrawing that. They don't want to do anything. Number two was the steps, right? And I want to come back to that. And the third was the work that's been done.
The work that's been done and the easements that the board had wanted.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about why work was done there without permits and without approvals?
Okay, so what was done, we respectfully believe that nothing was done without approvals. We in this case, this was the original condition. Right here, where you see the asphalt was in this car is parked between the two. You had the two properties were at the same level. Then what happened is that when the movie theater redid, they raised the parking area. I think because of the septic system or whatever, they raised their parking area here, and this landscaped area here is at a higher elevation, and for some reason they only paved
Yeah, I understand.
in line with their building.
I understand all
So there
that.
was an area, and this area here needs the trucks come in. We used it as parking.
Yeah, I
It also
understand
used
all
as
that.
parking.
But what is there now? was done without permits, without approval, and I recall, and my memory is good on this, that what is there now has no resemblance whatsoever to the plans that we saw and approved.
Which plan?
The final,
The
you
cafe
know,
or
The site plan?
the site plan for 51 Hill
Are you
Street.
talking about this one here, the approved
No.
site plan?
For the cafe?
Yeah,
But, you see, even at the cafe, he shows the steps on 43 Hill Street, but the steps are not really there, the steps are a little closer.
that's part
That's where the survey shows it as well.
No, it's not true, because here is the landscape area. That's where they have their
May I say
landscape
something?
area. That, this is not, that, if you go into this minutia, this plan does not reflect what was there. Yeah, there's a difference in grade between the two here, and that's where the landscape area is.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Please.
state something? Alex, do you have the approved site plan for the Playhouse?
It should be here, yeah.
My concern here, since we're having this discussion, is that the brick extensions that were built don't conform with our approved site plan, and they are an encroachment on the property. So I think it would be helpful if we could pull up the Playhouse's approved site plan, because the board approved something in that area.
Right.
Yes. Here we go. Is this on camera for everyone to see?
Not yet.
Okay, so here is 51 Hill Street. This is the area, right, this is the alleyway. Hill Street is here.
Yes.
This area was meant to be some sort of landscaped area. Here are the steps that come from 71 Hill across the Playhouse and sort of lead here. And so again, what has been done here, this is where the brick extension is, doesn't necessarily conform with our site plan approval.
No, but that, before you say, you did this, your client did this, not us.
They did not build the bricks.
But they did not build this way, they didn't do it this way. You said.
Well, these are the
No,
two
but,
parking spots.
Martha, before you.
So let me interrupt, right, there's just time out here. Excuse me, all right? We're not gonna have a debate argument. All we do are listen to testimony, so you address the board, not each other, please, okay?
Okay, so Mr. Chair, member of the board, what's happening is that here there was a change that was done by the movie theater, and that the access is no longer here, but the access is here. The access is here, and then they redesigned their landscape area over completely here. So this does not reflect what the movie theater did. You know, in this area, what they did, they built it differently, and then what we did, what was left with earth, we just filled it up with the matching brick. That's it. Now, that stairs here, first of all, there is not that many steps, and these are like wood steps that could easily go into directly, just be turned, and be going to their landscape area. There's really no need to go over 51 Hill Street. There's absolutely no need. You just turn the steps.
No,
and then
I
walk
get
over
that.
here.
I get that of the 3 points. I understand that. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The question I asked was, why was the work done behind 51 without approval and without permits? That's the question that we need to address.
So,
If I may, see what happened at that time, there was cooperation between the two, and there still is cooperation between the two property owners. And the 43 Hill Street sort of dug up a whole section of the back of 51 Hill Street, and we let Ms. Khan let them do it, it was fine, with neighbors, and then, but at the very end, for some reason, because you only paved to one section, the rest Ms. Khan paid to put the brick, but in fact, you could have insisted that you put the asphalt to that area.
So yeah, but I'm not focused right now on what 43 did, the theater, on their property, right? What we're talking about is 51 and what they did on their property. And again, the question is, on 51's property, and I understand a lot was going on outside the property, but on 51's property, the work that was done was neither approved nor permitted. How did that happen?
The work that we just simply restored, the excavated area from 43 Hill Street.
There wasn't brick there before. There's brick there now.
No, there was brick there. There was pictures. We were parking trucks. We were parking cars.
No, I'm talking about on the property.
On the property, there was always brick.
There was brick there before?
Absolutely.
The-
I have pictures. We use this as a parking area, and my trailers were there. Absolutely.
The surveys show that the brick area has grown, I think is what the chairman is saying. There was brick, and then there was a gravel area.
Yes, you're right. Well, yeah, right. There was a gravel area around that was converted to brick to make it a little cleaner, because now with the movie theater, to make it a little cleaner. Yes, so the brick area was extended.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but don't you need planning board approval and permits to do that?
Typically, it'd be up to the building inspector, but I believe that that's typically the case.
And in this situation, the building inspector decided what? That they did the building inspector approve that work? Without-
And that I don't know. I don't know that I don't think it was authorized, otherwise we'd have permit records for it.
Okay.
But we could certainly ask if they inspected the site.
So, that's right. So there was actually shown here on this picture here. You can see that there was, in fact, that's true. There was a little gravel area here. That gravel area, got extended. But it got extended for a reason. It got extended because they are grade already.
No, I
So
understand.
instead of bringing more gravel, we said, instead of bringing more gravel, let's put brick on top of the existing gravel and meet their grade. You see, it was, but you see, that gravel used to be at the same level as the
Yep.
parking area.
Got it. So we need to decide about the cross-access. We got to resolve that. The work that was done there, but, that's a code enforcement, not a planning board. Is there anything else we have to?
Except for how it affects our approved site plan, because this is the area here where the bricks were extended.
Yep.
And the Playhouse and 51 Hill Street, I'm sure, can cooperate on this, but it does impact our compliance with our site plan approval.
No, Martha, you're missing it.
No, I'm not.
I don't wanna-
This is the area where the brick was built and it was
No.
shown
And
the
who's-
landscape
whose
area.
property is that?
It's the Playhouses.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
The Playhouse did not build this. The Playhouse, the access to 51 Hill Street, the vehicular access, is through this area here. This parking space does not exist. This
There-
you drive,
If you look at the 2026 aerials, there are 2 parking spaces that have been striped right there. But this was supposed to be a landscaped area and it's not landscaped anymore.
Yeah, but you don't
No,
have to,
it isn't.
excuse me, you don't have to, if you want to change how your parking lot's laid out, you can do that. That's your prerogative, correct?
That's fine, I
You don't have
just
to maintain.
Want
But
to
it
bring
has to be in compliance with the site plan
With
is
the
the
approved
point.
site plan.
And right now, you're on your property, are you in compliance with your approved site plan?
Not in that section where 51 Hill Street came and built a brick extension where it was supposed to be landscaped.
So you need them to, in order to be in compliance, because you don't want to get in trouble with code enforcement.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
there's a miss, sorry, Martha, I would like to simply suggest that Martha communicates with our clients about this. This area, the brick stops at the property line. It's only where you have to drive that we put in the brick, so that we would meet the asphalt area. Because we
I
did
understand
not
that,
want.
but I can read this plan and
But we did, was not,
new planter.
it was not built this way. You did not,
Yes,
movie
this is
theater-
exactly the line of the two stripes. Look at the 2025. Here it is. There are sorry, here are the two new spots, right? They are in line with the building, here. It's this area.
Right, but what
That is no
happened?
different.
All right,
you
listen,
couldn't- you have to
hang
be
on a
able to
second.
drive. We didn't put
You
it
guys
there.
need to work this out on your own, not in front of planning board.
Well, no, but for the planning
For-
board, I want to make sure
So,
that,
right, I think you need to be in compliance with your approval, right? And you're not, correct?
What happened
Is that
is that-
correct?
That seems right. And so maybe the two owners who need to cooperate can work with their design professionals to either come up with a plan to get into compliance or amend the board's approval in a way
well, and
that
that's, I
meets,
guess,
yeah.
what I'm asking is, the way it is now, would it be acceptable to the board?
We'll have to present it. But I think if,
Well,
Mr. Chair, if I could,
conduct
if I may.
site visits.
Yeah, if I may, what happens that also, the reason why we did not want the movie theater, or Ms. Condon wanted the movie theater to put asphalt in that area, because the asphalt would have drained into 51 Hill Street.
Between
So
you
that's why
and,
we said,
listen, this
if
is
we
between,
break,
this
it's
is between,
permeable.
this is between you and the movie theater, okay? What we concern ourselves here with is whether you're building as approved, okay? So you're not, and you gotta fix it, right? Both of you gotta work together to fix it quickly. Now, you're looking for guidance from us as to what fix might be acceptable to the planning boards. Fair?
I think that's right, and I think the board has indicated that the pedestrian cross-access is important, and I know the landscaping was a priority when this was approved.
Exactly.
So something as closely as possible that can match at least the amount of landscaping. I know the permeable paving was important. That may not be feasible based on what's there, but my recollection is those were the board's priorities.
Right, so if we can give you any guidance, right, Hannah, you want to give, I mean, you can each give, let's everybody give them the guidance of what they're looking for.
We haven't had a lot of time to review it, come up with.
If you can come up with some sort of pedestrian access between the two on on 51's part. And if the Playhouse can agree that 51 needs some sort of vehicular access to their back, I think, and then have a drawing to that effect, then I think we can approve it.
Yeah. Amanda, anything?
I agree.
Yeah.
I
Alan?
kinda got it about right.
Okay. I think
Show us
it's
something.
Yeah, you gotta show us something, but I think pedestrian access, very important. And that, we're looking for a overall design to that whole area back there. So it's gotta work together, right? And not just a bunch of patchwork properties, right? That's the way we considered it. We're gonna continue to consider it that way. So you've gotta work something out that provides access for the public through that whole back there. That's super important to us. And then landscaping, make it look nice, also very important in a edited, consolidated fashion, right? So
Sure.
it looks like we
But
did this at
How
once.
do we deal with the fact that 51 Hill Street has, by letter today, withdrawn their site plan? And the changes to the Playhouse's site plan were done by 51 Hill Street.
Sorry, no, Martha.
This area right here, that was not done by the Playhouse.
But it was done on your property.
Correct, on
So
our
you're gonna have
property.
to, it's on your property?
Yes,
Right,
without
if
our
you can't-
permission
If
though.
you can't reach
You
agreement,
don't
you
say
gotta
that,
fix
please,
it,
Martha.
right? To get back in compliance with your approval. It's your property, it's your responsibility,
Okay.
right?
See,
And that's what, I think, Alex, you're welcome to disagree, but I think
No,
that's
I
what
think,
we're focused
I
on
think
is-
that seems right, and I think there's probably a path forward. If they're not gonna pursue that withdrawn site plan, we'll have to have something else that's gonna work for everybody.
Is there any reason that the inn owner should be here as well? Because it's all so close, and we all have to understand what's going on. And when you go and walk there, I mean, it's very difficult to sort of see what they're going to do and how that's going to, once that
I
fence
think
is
that
there.
part is approved, so I don't know if
That's
we'd
all.
want to revisit that and make things more complicated than they ought to be.
Then maybe we should bring those visuals, those plans
We
back.
have,
and
I'll bring those
incorporate into
plans
this
so that
because
you can see the
It is
plan
difficult.
connection.
It is
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah.
Because I was there, you've got the fence,
Yeah.
the fences, you've got a little strip, you've got a
cruddy staircase, and you've got like bricks missing, got lots of growth on it, and it's hard to see what exactly the original concept was, and I just would like to revisit, not leave that out of it. We don't have to change it, but to just make sure it's all going to flow, because you're talking about orienting the stairs differently. But what will that landing look like when it gets to the end part? What was the original conception of this whole
And then you
area?
could also have it handicap accessible, which I think is a requirement. It should be handicap accessible. If they have handicap rooms in the hotel, if they want to cross, it should be handicap
Right.
accessible. And I just want to just correct respectfully, Ms. Martha, that really the plan for the cafe was really done by 43 Hill Street, by your clients. You know, if they want to go proceed with the cafe, the door is open. But right now, it's nothing to do with Victoria
That is a
Commons.
private business matter
Exactly.
that has
Nothing to do with Victoria.
no relevance here, okay? So please take that outside of planning board meeting, because we don't need to hear that stuff. Fix it on your own, okay? So I think we're good on what 43 needs to do. Your property, your problem, fix it.
All right.
And on 51, I personally take a very dim view when something is approved and does not happen as approved, something else happens, and especially when it's done without permits. Now, if it was done with permits, I apologize. Doesn't sound like the building inspector had anything knows anything about this, but that needs to be fixed as well.
I think on behalf of Victoria Commons, I would like to apologize for the confusion and the miscommunication.
Yeah.
But the plans of the cafe was never implemented. It was just an application that was made to the planning board. It was never, you know.
But
never
still
been-
work got done back there.
Sorry?
Still work was done back there.
Work was
significant
done
work,
according to
okay?
those plans here.
Yeah.
This is the governing document, the site plan for the parking area, which was then changed. We changed our access here. Because first of all, this access had an issue for the garbage truck to turn, to be able to go here and the septic tank. So that's why we decided to make the access here along this wall.
Okay, I'm just saying, you know, it's not what was approved, it was done
Right.
without permits. I know the village code enforcement guys, they are tough cookies, so you do not want to run afoul of those guys, so I'd get this
All right.
fixed, okay? As quickly as you can, because they will be,
Let's
they-
revise
they-
that section.
the code enforcement guys do not mess around,
Absolutely.
okay?
Well, maybe they should be brought in so we get this done right.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, we're all good? We're good?
yeah.
Everybody clear?
Yeah.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we want to approve our minutes from the August
August 3rd.
3rd.
Approved?
All in,
July.
motion.
Wait,
July.
July,
July.
sorry.
A quorum approves
August 3rd, yeah, approved, all in favor. And then
meeting.
our next meeting, September 16th, it's a Wednesday night. How does that work?
Let me
for
see.
people?
It's Wednesday?
It's
Just
a
a
Wednesday
second.
night.
Wednesday, okay. I-
September,
16th. It's fine with me.
That's good.
I believe that works for Kim and for Lisa as well.
They're off, they dropped off?
Yeah, I think they had to jump. I know Kim lost some signal, but she did tell me that this.
I'm not sure,
16th.
but
Yes.
I can't.
Can you let me know as quickly as
Uh-huh.
possible? So right now, I think it's
Yeah, so you're making it the 16th.
not Wednesday?
Yeah.
Oh,
about-
what works for you then?
What about Thursday?
Does Thursday
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 evening?
work? Is the
That would be better.
boardroom
17th.
open
Yes.
then, Alex? Let's
It
just
works for
double check.
Kim. Let me just make sure there's not a meeting here.
It's not the 16th?
They can't
Oh,
be
my
here.
computer just died.
17th doesn't? we
I'm
set
sorry,
the-
my computer died. I believe that date was free when I checked
I think
earlier.
it was too. I
Okay.
thought Wednesday said
All
Thursday.
right, so that, and then are we taking one away or just adding that?
There is no
17th.
meeting in
Yeah.
September.
That's
Seven.
the
Now,
only
because of the
one.
holiday, this is the re.
So this is the only September
Okay,
meeting.
September 17th.
September
Thursday.
17th, okay?
Okay.
Julie, that works for you? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So are all the cases that were,
So wait a minute. Everybody, September 17th,
Yes.
Thursday
Yes.
night
Yes.
looks good for everyone, right?
Yep,
Right?
17th. I'm pretty sure we'll be in town.
Did Sage say yes?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good.
So would
Anything
you
else,
like to
Alex?
schedule a public hearing for 22 Windmill Lane for Thursday, September 17th?
Need a resolution to do that, don't I?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay, motion to schedule a public hearing for 22 Windmill for that date, 17th.
So
All in
moved.
favor? Thank
Aye.
you. Okay,
And then all the other applications are going to be adjourned to that date?
correct.
Okay, so maybe we'll do a motion to
Yeah, motion
adjourn.
to adjourn everything that needs to be to the 17th.
So, seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last thing, that the subdivision approval that you extended, what was the date that was approved to, so I can add it to my notes? I have it, my notes say it expired January 31st of this year.
Which subdivision?
It wasn't on the agenda because we received it today.
Oh,
The
oh, really?
Well, it was there, when we
First,
received it, it wasn't in compliance with the conditions of approval because things had to get filed.
Is it now?
Now, I believe they filed what they needed to file. And they were told they needed to ask for an extension because it had expired, according to my notes, January 31st, 2026.
And it's all just a matter of getting a map to me to sign, correct?
Yeah, the maps are in the office, just the approval has expired. And it's either you or your secretary signs them.
Let's
This
give
is
them
for
30,
the-
let's
This is
give,
for the change of the lines of those two lots.
correct.
That's right.
On Cooper's Farm, Cooper's Neck, I
Well,
mean.
however it happened, we need to fix that up. That was
Yeah,
totally
yeah.
routine.
So, motion to
Wait,
extend,
wait.
this is,
We discussed Cooper's Neck during the winter. So how did
Yep.
it expire in January?
So the subdivision, I think it's in 180 days. It expires unless the map is signed. So the map came into our office, I think, in July 16th. I reached out to Kim, and it turns out they hadn't complied with one of the conditions. Something still had to
Oh,
get
okay, so
filed.
it would be July 31st, not January. You said January.
No, originally it was, according to my notes, it was expired in January because it had been approved 180 days prior to that.
Really? Because I recall talking about it
He
during the winter.
Yeah, I think he brought
we
it back.
did.
He brought it back, the changed line. Bill Dye noticed an anomaly between the setbacks for buildings. and
Yeah,
he had
yeah,
to move the
yeah.
right,
Right.
south.
Is this the cul-
Right.
And
You're
so he
right,
moved it
Alan.
a little bit south, and he brought in slightly
And
a
it
couple
was
of feet.
this winter.
Yeah.
And he brought back those plans, which have died.
So just to clean this up, all we need to do is decide on an extension.
Yes,
for
I mean, you
that.
told Mr. Bennett you'd extend it. I just want to make sure I understand the
Yeah,
date
30, let's do 30 days.
from
right?
today.
Yeah, do I need
Okay.
a resolution? Do we need, so,
Motion on that earlier, no?
It did, but it needs to be extended with a date.
yeah,
Because if we're bringing it current to
Yeah.
today, then it'll
so
be
30 days from today.
30 days. Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Had a date to amend the prior motion with a date.
Yeah.
Do you want to, Alan, do you want to make that motion?
I move that the prior motion of extension for the subdivision would be extended 30 days
Second,
from today.
second, all in favor?
The ayes have it.
I'm
Any
sorry.
Yeah,
negatives?
aye.
I'm sorry.
Aye.
All right,
For
thank
attending
you.
the-
So, okay.
Yeah, just for cleaning it
A
up.
motion to
perfectly.
date.
All right.
A prior, a vote to better date a prior motion.
All right, motion to close the meeting. All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
It was a long one.